Hey everyone, I'm Jim Brees from LearnAirbnb.com, and I want to thank you for joining our live Q&A session today. Now, last week, I sat down with Argel Sabillo of Levee Tax, and he gave me a rundown of the last-minute 2015 Airbnb tax deductions that you can get as an Airbnb host. And you don't want to miss out on this because tax deductions help to lower your tax liability. So, Argel, could you give a little bit of an explanation of kind of what we chatted about last week, a little 2-minute rundown?
Yeah, for sure, Jim. So, in summary, from our last discussion, we talk about the last minute tax. These are business expenses that you can accelerate now, so that you can take the benefits in 2015 rather than waiting until 2016 to claim your full tax year deduction. Some of those deductions are, if you own your own home, it's donations to qualified charity, state and property taxes. And if you're renting, then purchasing new equipment as well as like supplies, possibly repairs that you need to do by the end of the year, any travel costs if you're going to another Airbnb out of state, any professional help that you pay for tax preparation or consulting, insurance premium, that sort of stuff that we talked about last time. A little bit about Levee. We provide tax preparation services for Airbnb hosts, and we get multiple requests from our hosts. They're looking for tax tool that they can use to make their lives easier, and that's why we created Levee app, which allows our hosts to track their expenses throughout the year, and as well as at the end of the year, request our tax professional to do their tax return. Just a little bit about me. I work on corporation, individual, and partnership returns when I was working for one of the big four accounting firms. And most of our tax professionals are either CPAs, enrolled agents, and at least have 5 to 8 years of experience doing tax returns for businesses and individuals. So we know what we're doing, and we created these tools to make it easier for us, but as well as like the host that our clients.
Great. Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, you guys really know what you're talking about when it comes to, independent contractor taxes and Airbnb hosting taxes. I know when we had that discussion, you had a special offer. Could you go over that a little bit real quick with us?
Yeah, sure. So to get people started with Levee, we're giving away the first 3 months of the app for free, so that you can test it out. You can see the design, see something that's useful for your business. And we're also giving 20% off tax preparation fee if you sign up by the end of the year. The reason we're giving away the discount is to encourage people to sign up now and take advantage of these last minute tax deductions.
Exactly. So signing up for the Levee app now is a tax deduction you can take in 2015 and gain the benefit, correct?
Correct, Jim.
Great. Awesome. So a little bit more about Argel. Just want to give you guys a real rounded update. Is that Argel, like I said, is a co-founder of Levee Tax. And Levee is like having an accountant, a personal accountant right in your pocket. The app allows you to quickly categorize all of your expenses and quickly prepare your taxes when it's time to file. And it's a must-have for all Airbnb hosts. Now, having everything in one place, organized and ready, is a valuable time-saving thing. Because there's so many other tasks that Airbnb hosts that occupies their mind space. So having the taxes taken care of, you can get them filed quicker, you can get your returns quicker, and hopefully you can take care of that with less burden on your mind. So again, viewers, we've had a lot of questions about, hey, what is Levee? What are some different tax things? So I want to make sure that you can get what you need. So again, we have the Q&A right now, but if you have any specific questions, I need you to share them with us, and you can share them at info@learnairbnb.com. You can email them over to us, and we'll get those taken care of for you. If this is a replay, also feel free to send us over your questions. We will always make sure that those get taken care of for you. I have some questions that have been sent to me over the past week, as well as some things that I'd like to discuss that came up since our chat, Argel. So let's just hop right into the questions I have. Again,
Sure.
People, viewers, if you want to, email us at info@learnairbnb.com, and we'll make sure to get your questions taken care of. So for the first question that I have, people sometimes provide meals for their guests or food for their guests. Are the meals provided to the guests 50%, 100%, 75% deductible? How does that work, Argel?
Yeah, so that depends on the meals that you're providing. If you are out on a restaurant treating your guests to a nice dinner, then generally you're joining them for the meal as well. And then so your deduction is 50%. So in general, tax deduction for meals meals and entertainment are 50%. However, if the meals are provided to your guests, like you make them breakfast as part of your Airbnb operations, part of your listing, then those are 100% deductible.
Awesome. That's a very good, because I know a lot of hosts, they like to provide that extra touch of hospitality service, and to know that that expense is tax deductible, that's fantastic. Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. So now occupancy taxes, it's a hot item right now. Can I deduct occupancy taxes from my Airbnb income as a deduction?
So that depends as well. So occupancy taxes are taxes that are paid by guests for staying at hotels, right? So the tax is enforced on the city level, and the tax rate varies by cities. As a host, you're required to collect the occupancy tax from guests and send the payment to the city. So basically, you just serve as the person collecting the taxes from the transient, from the guest, and then sending it over to the city. So it depends on how Airbnb is collecting that taxes. If they're collecting it in your behalf and it's part of your gross income, then obviously that shouldn't be gross income, and you need to deduct that on your taxes. So make sure that you're looking at your 1099 at the end of the year, because it's supposed to just be running straight from the guest to the city. So if Airbnb is having you collect it and then adding in your gross income, then you have to pay attention to that.
Okay, great. And that is when you export the CSV file from the back end of Airbnb, and you can see what your actual income is versus what your 1099 is, and the difference is either the taxes they withheld or the Airbnb income or Airbnb fee, correct?
Correct. So when you get that CSV file, you'll see different columns. You'll see your gross income, and then you'll see a breakdown of the Airbnb fees, cleaning fees, as well as occupancy tax. If you add all those up and it adds up to your gross income, then you know that it's not right, that your gross income should include Airbnb fees and occupancy tax. So you need to back out those amounts.
Awesome.
And
Okay, go ahead.
in addition to that, make sure that if I mean, we'd prefer it if you use us as your tax preparer, because we know what goes on in the gross income that's provided by Airbnb. But if not, and if you have a tax accountant, make sure that they know at least a little bit about Airbnb and how it's operated, and that you're reconciling your 1099, because your tax preparer is not going to know that. They're just going to take the gross amount and then tax you on it.
Makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. That's a very good tip. It's something that most people overlook. They overlook the fees from Airbnb or the different taxes that are collected. Make sure you are checking your CSV file against your 1099, which you'll receive hopefully, I think, at the end of January. By January 31st is when those are due
Yes.
out.
Correct.
Perfect. Cool. All right. So the Levee app, it's beautiful. It's awesome. But really, what makes the Levee app different from the other expense tracking apps like Expensify?
Yes, so most expense tracking app today track expenses and provide you with a report. And at the end of the year, you can export the report and then re-enter that data into TurboTax or send it to your local accountant who may not be familiar with Airbnb taxes. So most of those apps will just allow you to track the total amount, right? So what we do is we know exactly how much proportionally should go towards business and personal. So that's one thing that we do well for Airbnb host. How the Levee app is different is that it's not only that it can track expenses, but it's also a tax app, meaning that we can collect information securely about you throughout the year, and we have a team of experienced tax professionals who prepare your taxes remotely, which eventually saves you time and money.
Awesome. Fantastic. So I've got a question here from one of our viewers.
Okay.
And her name is Linda, and she's from LA, she says, if I'm using a management company to run my Airbnb rental, is my activity passive, or should I file a Schedule E? I know we talked about Schedule E and Schedule C in our prior discussion. So with it, when you're using a management company for your Airbnb rental, is it considered passive, or is it considered an active income?
If you're running your Airbnb and you're using a management company, your activity generally will be active. And activity that is passive versus active would be based on the material participation test. And there are like 7 tests to classify your activities. One of those tests is that If your activity is more than 500 hours per year, then your activity is active. So that's about 2 months. If you're working 2 months doing Airbnb, um, and another test is like if you're making day-to-day decision on the operation, then you're materially participating. Therefore, your activity is active. If you're using a management company, the hours that they spend doesn't count towards that 500 hours. And in regards to filing Schedule C or E, it doesn't really matter if you're active or you're passive. You can file a Schedule C or E as an active or as a passive activity. What's going to depend if your Schedule C or E is based on the average stay of your guests, which we discussed last time, and whether or not you're providing substantial services to your guests.
Gotcha, great. And those substantial services, that's one of the bigger points on deciding what schedule you're on. Can you give us an example of maybe one or two of substantial services, or what would be classified as substantial services?
Yeah, substantial services are basically services that you would provide to make your guest life convenient, right? So hotels are good at this, motel, or not motel, but bed and breakfast, where they provide you with amenities. For example, they provide you with breakfast. So rent a traditional rental unit only provides you with the space, and maybe some like lighting outside of your property. You have a lease and you pretty much put all the amenities or the furniture in your apartment that you're leasing. That's very different than Airbnb hosting, which you provide like towels and different things for the benefit and for the convenience of your guests.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, that's good to know. So, and if viewers, if you have any questions about Schedule E or Schedule C, you can always reach out to Argel from Levee. I'm going to post his contact information in the bottom of this video, as well as at the end of this video. Argel will be able to tell you how to get in contact with him and his team. So, another question I wanted to hop into. So, say if I made less than $2,000 in total income last year from Airbnb, do I really have to file taxes? Is there like a certain level where it's not a worry if I have to file taxes? Could you explain a little bit more about that? Like, what is the threshold? And if there even is a threshold, or does everyone have to file a tax form about that?
Yes. So for most individuals, if you're under 65 and you made less than 10,150 in gross income in 2015, then you don't have to file taxes. However, for Airbnb host, if you made at least $400 in net earnings from self-employment, that means that your gross income that you made from Airbnb minus all your deductions, your Airbnb fees and any mileage, any sort of business expenses, deductions that you can offset against your gross income, the net amount of that, if it's more than $400, regardless or not, if you receive a 1099 from Airbnb, you're required to file your taxes.
All right, awesome. That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Viewers, again, if you have any questions, you can email us at info@learnairbnb.com. We're still taking questions. We have a few more coming in now. So I wanted to hop back into that. All right, so Jason from Seattle asks, I'm an Airbnb host, and I need to know, should I create an LLC for my Airbnb business, or is there a better way to organize? And do I even need to organize? So Argel, could you shed some light onto that?
I think that it depends. It depends on how big is your Airbnb business operation. If you're just starting out, I wouldn't recommend organizing yet, because you have to pretty much juggle between liability risks and cost of mitigating that liability. So I'd say it depends. Most Airbnb hosts create a limited liability company to protect their personal assets, or they create a partnership if they want to share the risk of running a business with a business partner or a spouse. Your liability risk increases as you increase your number of bookings. So you really have to find a balance between how much risk am I going to be able to take, and what's the cost associated with dealing with those risks. So for example, cost of tax preparation increases from individual tax return to, say, a partnership returns. It increases by about 10 times. And then as far as like states like California, if you have a limited liability company every year you have to pay a minimum of $800 to the franchise tax board, whether or not you made money. So you really want to balance, the cost associated with those by forming an LLC versus, well, what are the risks? Like if you are just a renter, maybe you don't have a lot of personal property, then maybe it doesn't make sense yet to form an LLC. However, like I said, the more you get involved, once you start having multiple units, and you start having money coming in, then maybe the cost is minimal in comparison to what you're exposed to.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, especially with people that are running like 5 to 6, 7, 10, 15 units. I think it's a good way to help minimize that liability risk that you have. But you made a good point that people that are going into this with business partners, it's always nice to have some type of formal agreement between them, especially if you plan on growing this into something that is a professional management company for your Airbnb rental units.
Yeah, that's a great point. You also want to think about, if you have partners, you want to think about whether you want to form a partnership or a corporation. And one big difference between the two is, if you have a partnership, every year the income and losses of that business gets allocated to all the partners every year. So if you're doing some sort of tax planning for your individual tax return, just remember that every year you have to claim the losses and income of that business, versus if it's corporation, all the income and expenses stays within the corporation, and you do not report that income on your individual tax return. The only way you would do that is if the corporation is distributing stocks or distributing payment to you, right? And then so that would be like a W-2 from the corporation,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's like a Schedule E distribution of capital, for example.
Gotcha. All right. So that can get kind of technical, guys. Like I say, we're going to be able to connect you with Argel directly. So if you have any questions, I know some of this stuff, like I say, it gets technical. Argel will be here to help you and answer any of the questions that you have. If this is a replay, if you don't get your questions in for the live Q&A right now. Again, you can send your questions to info@learnairbnb.com. We'll make sure to get those answered for you. I just got another one, and it's one that's, I think, very timely right now. It's from this woman named Michelle in Phoenix. She says she has 4 Airbnb units, and for the month of December, she's been giving gifts for her guests. And she wants to know, are those gifts tax deductible? Because it's a choice she's making. Is it part of her Airbnb business? Because she doesn't have to necessarily give these gifts. So what are your thoughts on our Christmas gifts or holiday gifts tax deductible?
Yes, they are, but they're limited. So as part of doing business, you want to keep that relationship going with the host or with guests and your clients. So providing gifts to them during the holiday season is fairly common. The only thing that you need to remember is that your gifts is limited to $25 per recipient. So for every person that you give gifts to, you can only deduct up to $25. The rest are non-deductible per year.
Okay, cool. So what if there are 4 people within the stay? If there's like four guests are coming, can I write off $100 or can I only write off $25? Is it at the guest level or the reservation level?
It's per recipient level. So if you are writing to the Jones family and there's 4 of them, then that would be $25 per recipient. So if you give them each $25 gift card, those are $100 deductible.
Awesome. Fantastic. It's something that many hosts do too as well. It's having a welcome gift. That $6, $7, $8 gift that you give to a guest as they come in, as well as chocolates, a little bottle of wine, just something to have guests say, hey, I'm happy to have you here. Thanks for staying. Here's a taste of our city. Enjoy this. It helps to smooth over, if there's any issues with check-ins, and it builds a lot of good rapport with your guests. So I would suggest, not even just during the holiday season, but all the time, you should be offering your guests some kind of simple token of your appreciation that they chose your Airbnb out of all the different Airbnb rental units within your city. It's something that's very simple practice. You can buy them in bulk from Amazon. You can buy a big box of chocolates, or go buy 100 Ghirardelli chocolate squares and a case of wine, and you can get these things cheap. They make a huge impact. Once you start to use it, you're going to be very, very pleasantly surprised by how your reviews will possibly take a skyrocket from a lot less 3s and 4s, some more 5s, and people will talk about that gift and how it just made a very good first impression on them, because first impression is everything with a guest. When they walk in, hopefully they're wowed by your place, but also having a gift and something that's unexpected, it just puts a smile on their face, and guests, they love to be surprised. So thank you for sharing that those are tax deductible if you do that. And again, it's just a very common hospitality practice to wow your guests.
Yeah, Jim, I couldn't agree more. I was a guest in an Airbnb in Paris, and it was a cozy place. And I was really surprised when they left a bottle of wine out in the table when we got there. We didn't meet the host personally; he wasn't there, but he had a bottle of wine waiting for us. And even though we didn't drink the wine because we were traveling so much, we like I gave him 5-star review for that just because he went an extra mile of something could probably cost it's probably really cheap in France to buy a bottle of wine, right? And so, but to me, that went a long way.
Yeah, exactly. It puts a halo effect on the entire stay. Once you just get welcomed with something positive, you're more apt to overlook, if they're missing a garbage can in the bathroom or this or that. It's a good common practice. And so, host, I would recommend that you consider putting and implementing that into your Airbnb hosting next year. Good. So another thing that Airbnb hosts do, this is a question I thought about earlier this week, and we outsource a lot of different tasks, and it may not be to a specific company. It may be to just a personal individual. Like I know a lot of hosts in the Los Angeles area, they have personal cleaners that come in and turn over their Airbnb units. Is there a certain threshold to where I have to issue a 1099 to my cleaner, or do I pay, how do I make sure that I'm getting the right deduction for that and accounting for it correctly?
Right. So paying a cleaning person to clean your Airbnb unit is deductible for you. 100% deductible for host. The question is, there's some compliance that happens around that. So are you in compliance to the 1099 requirements? So if you paid your cleaning person more than $600 in 1 year, then you have to issue him or her a form 1099 miscellaneous. When you file the form 1099, you have to report the amount on line 7, which is for payment to independent contractors. You'll send one of those copy to your cleaning person by February 1st, 2016, and another to the IRS by February 29, 2016. And the third copy is for your records. So you have to meet this deadline. Otherwise, the IRS will start charging you significant penalties the later you send those 1099. It's the same thing as Airbnb sending you a 1099. They're required by law to give you 1099 for expenses that they pay you, or for the rental unit, I guess, that they charge you, right? And then so they have to send it to you by February 1st, 2016, and to the IRS by February 29. Otherwise, they'll get a penalty for not complying.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And then that 1099 form, is that available on the irs.gov website, or just something simple to Google up, or where can we get that form if we need to actually follow through on that?
Yeah, so that's something that you can just Google, which will pull up the IRS website. It'll be a form that you need to fill out. You can do it yourself, or you can hire a bookkeeper. There are companies out there, there are bookkeepers out there who specializes in this. But last year I had a host prepare the 1099 miscellaneous by herself, and she said it was pretty straightforward. She just needed my guidance on where to put the amount, which is going to be on line 7. And then you just make sure you send those to the taxing authority before the deadline.
Awesome, great. Again, viewers, I want to let you know that you can hop on right now and send us questions at info@learnairbnb.com. The email address should be on the screen right now. We'll get those questions answered for you. Again, if this is a replay and you're not able to make the live webinar, also please send your questions in to info@learnairbnb.com. We'll make sure we get those answered for you. Now, you've talked about a lot of awesome things. How can people get a hold of you? Where's your office located at, and how can they make an appointment to chat with you personally?
So we don't have a physical office location to prepare tax return, but our headquarters is in downtown Los Angeles. To make an appointment, you just go to our website, and go to our website at www.getlevee.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom of the page and enter your email address, and one of our team members will reach out to you. We primarily operate online, but if you're in the LA area, I'd be happy to meet you in person.
Awesome. Cool. So again, I know we have the special offer, but the website is the same, www.getlevee.com. The special offer, again, that Argel had for our viewers is that you can get the app free for 3 months, and you can get 20% off your first year's purchase, which again is tax deductible for this year if you get it done before December 31st. To redeem that, it's easy. Visit www.getlevee.com, scroll to the bottom. As Argel said, you can input your email address as well as input this invite code year end and submit it, and you'll be able to get started and get in contact with Levee.
Correct.
Good deal. Awesome. Again, Argel, let me just check real quick, and I'll see if we have any more questions that came in while we were chatting. All right. I don't see any more questions now, but again, viewers, if you have any questions, if this is a replay or if you have in the next minute or two, send over questions to info@learnairbnb.com. We'll do our best to get those answered for you. Again, Argel, thank you very much for taking the time to explain to the Learn Airbnb host community how Levee can make their lives simpler, easier, and hopefully net a more profitable Airbnb year. 2016 is just right around the corner. Everyone, make sure you get your last-minute tax deductions and do your tax planning. You can contact Argel at www.getlevee.com and have them start helping you with your tax planning for 2016 as well. Argel, again, thank you very much for having this special offer as well. We really appreciate that.
No problem, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Good deal. Again, viewers, if you have questions, info@learnairbnb.com. We look forward to helping you out. Have a great day, and we will all talk very soon.
Bye, Jim.
See you later.